really be able to learn a lesson, all the lessons that are possible. There are different stakeholders who've been involved in this, and every ministry, every agency that has worked in Uttarakhand, I'm sure that they have a lot of documentation, recommendations coming out of these, and they will all need to be consolidated. And this will be a great learning experience for all of us. So I hope today's deliberation, covering various aspects, will give us a lot of information and ideas of how about the way ahead. I had suggested to Dr. Satyendra, I think Mr. Manoj Goyal, an advocate of the Supreme Court, who had in fact moved the PIL very early on while the situation there was, while thousands of people were still stranded there. He was also stranded, I believe, in Gangotri. And then when I met him subsequently, he had some very interesting suggestions to make, so I suggested that he be invited. I think he's participating in the last session today. So people like that, I think we need to have in cooperation with the state government, officers who've been there in the field, who interviewed for about 20 days. I think we need to involve many more people. We will take it up with the Home Ministry. If funds are required, that should not become a problem. We must plan a massive, extensive study so that all possible things are documented, because this is something very valuable and we must not miss this opportunity. So I wish this workshop all success, and I'm sure that we have a lot of things coming out of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I take this opportunity as we come to an end or close of the inaugural session. I take this opportunity to really thank all the speakers who have set the tone and tenor for the subsequent sessions to follow. However, may I please request Dr. Surya Prakash from NIT to propose a formal vote.
Before I pass my vote of thanks formally, I would like to pass my sorrowful feelings to the sad demise of all those victims who have died during the Uttarakhand disaster and who have lost their near and dear ones and suffered a lot of hardships because of the disaster that we could not manage. And in light of this, we are going to have discussions, day-long discussions, for which we have given you a program schedule, and deliberations will take place. Since the time is short, I'll just pass on my thanks. That it's my proud privilege to say thanks to Honorable Vice Chairperson, National Disaster Management Authority, Shri M. Satyendra Reddy ji, who have kindly spared his valuable time to inaugurate this program and be the chief guest of this program. I'm thankful to Shri Chandi Prasad Bhatt ji, who had been quite busy and come along the long distance from Gopeshwar to Delhi to share his viewpoints, and will remain throughout the day to give us the directions and find out the way for managing disasters in future and reducing their impacts. I am thankful to Shri Mattu ji, who is Chief Resident Commissioner of Uttarakhand State. He has also been very busy because of the Uttarakhand disaster and frequent problems encountered during the monsoon periods. But despite that, he has been kind enough to come over here and share his views about the state's perceptions, challenges, and the feelings that need to be taken care of in managing the disasters. And he has expressed his views about what the state expects from various central and state government agencies. I hope we will try to come up to their expectations. I am thankful to Dr. Stendra who had made this program possible with his kind guidance. And I would also like to thank all the dignitaries here, particularly honorable members from NDMA, Shri V.K. Dugal, Shri Nand Kumar ji, Dr. Muzaffar Ahmad ji, the honorable member from North-Eastern Council, Shri P.P. Srivastav ji, and honorable representatives from Army, Major General Sushil Agarwal ji, Lieutenant General Baba ji, and representatives from Air Force, Assist Medal, Shri Nair ji, ITBP IG, Shri I.S. Negi ji, IG NDRF Shri Rathore ji, Chief Engineer Border Roads Shri Rajnan ji, Chairman of Gujarat Electricity Regulatory Board Shri P.K. Mishra ji, who had done a lot of good works during the Gujarat earthquakes, is well known for his book on Kutch earthquake. Shri Anil Kumar Sinha ji, Vice Chairperson Bihar State Justice Management Authority, and Shri Professor V.K. Sharma ji, who is Vice Chair in Sikkim State Disaster Management Authority. We are thankful to Shri Amit Sinha ji, DIG Police from Uttarakhand, Shri Krishnamurthy ji, Director IRS, Shri L.S. Rathore, DGIMD, Professor Dubey, Head of the Geology Department, Delhi University, Shri Manoj Goyal ji, who had accepted our request after we were introduced about him, YVC and DMA, to be present over here. And I would also like to express all those representatives from NDMA, from Ministry of Home Affairs, from National Disaster Response Force, Uttarakhand government and administration, non-governmental organizations, research and academic organizations including CRRI, Wadia Institute, IP University, Garhwal University, Delhi University, and media, who is going to cover this event and would bring to the notice of the public, and particularly the All India Radio will be telecasting this. And we are also thankful to all of our faculty members and staff who had made this event possible with their hard efforts within a short period of time. And before I close this vote of thanks, I have been given the task to inform you about the sessions, that there are 3 sessions which will be pertaining to the different themes. The session 1, Uttarakhand disaster response. Session 2 will be coordination and administrative issues, and session 3 is rail. I would urge you to be here till the last session, because last session will be a panel discussion where you can contribute a lot with your experiences and ideas that may help the state and the nation. As pointed out by Shri Chandiprasad Bhatt, we have not to look at in isolation only the Uttarakhand disaster, but all the Himalayan states which are likely to suffer from similar disaster in view of the changing climatic condition and population pressures and developmental pressures. And with this, I end my vote of thanks, and I have a pleasant duty to invite you to a cup of tea after this session, and we will be break for tea for about 15 minutes, and session 1 will start at 11:35, just after 15 minutes. It will be chaired by
Disaster Management Authority, and he was actually coordinating the entire rescue and relief operations on behalf of central government, the entire duration of the disaster till July 31st, and he will be coordinating the post-disaster reconstruction also. And we have the co-chair Shri P.P. Srivastava, member from NEC Shillong. And if you go through the page 3 of this 9-page brochure provided to you, this session is on Uttarakhand response, disaster response, rescue and relief operations. And we have 6 presentations in this. Keynote address is from Professor Chandan Ghosh, Head of Geohazards Department of NIDM. So I may request Chairperson to start this.
Because the session was supposed to start at about 11, and I see that we are already 15 minutes behind schedule. Now, I normally leave for Uttarakhand on Monday morning and come back on Wednesday, because then I dedicate 2 days here. Now, I have meetings scheduled there from 3 o'clock onwards, and important meetings that is. and my flight is at 1:30. So I have to leave this place at 12:15 to be at the airport at about 1 o'clock. So we have this half an hour where I will, and then I request, I think, General Baba, I hope you don't mind joining here because you were part of the early, at least the rescue side and things like that, and you can contribute along with Shivasta. So I would request Chandan, if your presentation, where's Chandan?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
If your presentation is way too long, then I would rather, if you allow me, we will start with an interactive session of about, because then thereafter is lunch, so one can cut short the lunch time and things like that. I think there are 2-3 issues I wish to raise, and then we have a 5-7 minutes interactive session in case, of course, you all know, I mean the media and the whole the social network, everything has covered the disaster pretty much in detail, and I'm quite sure that all participants are fully on board as to how it happened, what is the loss, and so on and so forth. But still, if there are some issues that are bothering you on the as to what happened really, bothering you as to how did we kind of manage the rescue with the relief systems, with relief systems are still in progress. How are we going to address the reconstruction side? How are we going to address the rehabilitation side? How are we going to address the long-term kind of a thinking or planning as to if you are not able to do our best so that there is a sufficient early warning or adequate early warning and some kind of a preparedness to face such massive disasters. I think if we dedicate those first 10 minutes to that, and then we go on to this thing, because then I will be at peace and not in a rush, and I can quietly slip away. So if you have any question, I could face that. Now let me just say one thing. As I see, the topic was on the coordination side. Now, once this had happened on 16th and 17th of June, multiple agencies got involved. So there were visible agencies and there were invisible agencies. I mean, the visible amongst those which you are reading in the newspapers, the Army, the Air Force, the ITBP, the National Disaster Response Force, the BRO, from the Government of India side, and then you had the state police and the state administration, the whole lot from state government side. But there were a good number of invisible agencies, governmental agencies I'm talking, before the NGOs and the civil sector organizations and others kind of got in the corporate world. And they were like the Ministry of Health, who played a key role. They were which were coordinated by our distinguished colleague and member, Mr. Muzaffar Ahmed. They were Ministry of Petroleum, because once you had to fly the choppers to various locations and things like that, the refueling thing, ATF supplies, even otherwise for various things, how much they were involved. Ministry of Food was greatly involved, because so that other than what kind of contributions came from the other states, you needed the supply system to be built up for the next 3 months or so in all villages. And I may make a mention here that 4,000 villages initially had felt the impact of the disaster. About 1,600 odd villages were badly damaged. And we may need to relocate about 290 to 93 villages, and about 300, well, at last count, 300 plus villages are still not connected. So, I mean, the devastation was kind of huge in that a town was wiped out totally from the face of the earth. So, there were these invisible, and the Department of Communication, for example, the Ministry of Communication. So, everybody, it is not, when initially this came, I mean, there was some hue and cry in the media. A coordination, why have you appointed a national coordinator? That because the coordination was poor, because people didn't know what they're doing. Now you imagine the size of the disaster, You imagine the scale of the operations involved. You imagine the number of agencies that are involved. And if you have somebody, I mean, it could be Mr. Srivastava, it could be me, it could be PK, whosoever is there, who can just sit down, who has worked through the system, who knows the system, and who can help, guide, pat your back, and also pull your leg when he knows that things are not moving rightly. So that was a role that was assigned to by the Home Ministry to me, and I assure you, not that there was some major chaos earlier, or not that there major chaos it would have been, but as I mentioned, in a disaster of this scale, in a disaster of this size, and when there are so many agencies involved, you know, so you need coordination from here, there, and everywhere. That did help, you know, to kind of to speed up the thing, as I think Vice Chairman mentioned, that you can imagine it will be probably recorded in the history that it was one of the safest, swiftest, and the largest evacuation operation, given the terrain, given the inclement weather, and given the kind of a lack of connectivity that was there. 160,000 people rescued, 160,000 including 110,000 pilgrims from other states, rescued and rescued safely. Not a single injury, not a single report of sickness, and everybody reaching their homes. 110,000 people reached their homes safely, and 50,000 people, and 69 relief camps were established to house these people at different locations, and rest going to their, you know, leaving their villages and going to their relatives or this and that, now local residents who are now being distinct. So it does help in a way that when you have a person who's worked in through the system, and you know, kind of help. Of course, the main role was played by the state government and by the Government of India agencies. They are the people on the field who delivered the goods. So no credit is enough to be given to them. I must say that in the process we lost lives also. I think it must have been mentioned, we lost, you know, the civilians died. Of course, the Air Force, ITBP, and DRF people died. We lost a young officer in the whole operation. So I would suggest, with your permission, Chandan, if there are any doubts lurking in the minds of the people here, so if you wish to raise those doubts or those questions, not that I'm an authority, but having been there for about 2 months, probably I can attempt to answer those. Yes, please.
It is just my curiosity that why NCC students, NSS students, and ex-soldiers from the Uttarakhand region were not involved in this rescue operation.
Okay. All right. So let me attempt that. You see, as I said, the initial response, let us understand as to who is the first responder. The first responder in any disaster is the state government. And in this case also, the first responder was the state government. On the 16th, when the IMD issued the kind of a stronger warning, I should say. It was not a warning which was predicting this level of disaster, but a little bit stronger than the routine warning. The state government did alert everybody out there, you know, through announcement systems and this and that, and everything was done in Rudraprayag area. Now, but when actually it happens, the first thing you want to do is you want to set up a proper command and control system so that the things move as per your directions. You know, if the state government, if the state administration to supplement, it's not that we didn't involve people from outside. We involved a lot of agencies from outside to assist the state police and the state administration. But the single line of this thing was the Director General of Police and the Chief Secretary of the state. The Government of India agencies were headed by very senior people who were this thing. So the coordination becomes a lot easier. Even when the bodies were to be they retrieved or excavated from this thing, we had the state police and the NDRF doing the work. But it is not that the other people other volunteers, other paid people were not involved. So all agencies which you think, you also must understand, you can involve as many people as you can tell the whole nation, please come and help. But you also have to take care of their logistics, of their movement, of their well-being, of their health, and number of issues. We sent doctors to Kedarnath and doctors fall sick. Please understand, so we had to evacuate them also. So you only need that much of workforce. There's no need to kind of overflood it with workforce when the requirement of a number X. Because Army had a very large number, Air Force had, at one, I think at their peak they had 45 or 52 helicopters supplying, then civil helicopters were there. So I think all agencies, if it was not so, if you are saying, if it was not so, how come that this year, as a matter of fact, I will send you the figures, the health figures. Normally these things result into kind of epidemics and things like that when they are floating bodies in the water and people are drinking that water. Or you are doing mass cremations. How come that so much of preventive care was taken with the help of various NGOs, with the help of Government of India, Ministry of Health and the Red Cross, and with this thing that as a matter of fact, not even an iota of any epidemic or any infectious disease kind of raising their head. So it is like this. You need X number of people, so you got X number of people. If you over deploy people, then you also get into a different kind of a bother. I know how difficult it was to even position people in Kedarnath. It was impossible. There is no place to stay. You had to put kind of tents on and things like that. All buildings are up to 12 to 14 feet of debris is filled in all those 200, 240 buildings which are there. So you have to make arrangements for them to stay. You have to, and the weather is so bad. But I tell you, we reached a breaking point one day when there were about 70 odd people deployed there and there was no food for them. It was the last day of the rations. And fortunately the window opened next day and we sent the choppers flying, and really we had to take over a dharmshala in Garuchatti. There were some reserve rations of some Panditji rakhe hue the. Okay, we may have to kind of make that as a base camp and supply the people. So you need right number of people for the right thing. And the voluntary organization and the other forces, they played a very important role. But that they should be involved in the hardcore rescue operations. It is left to the DG and to the Chief Secretary of the State. Yes, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I am Purnima Chauhan, Director of the Himachal Institute of Public Administration. And Himachal being equally, if not more vulnerable as Uttarakhand, I realized the fact of the immense work done in Kedarnath and the post-Kedarnath learnings, which will definitely help, because everybody is saying that post the 1905 Kangra earthquake, it is imminent, and this was mentioned in the PT session also. Sir, is there any manner in which we could have these learnings in a simulated scenario that had Kedarnath happened, or does it, if it happens again, how well prepared are we, keeping the same area in mind, so that this simulated environment can be shared and the capacity built? And as was just mentioned, there are a number of agencies, foot soldiers, who could be available with, of course, different kinds of responsibilities in a decentralized manner. And being able to mobilize them at very short notice, there is no time to learn at that point of time. However, there is sufficient time now that immediately this disaster is very fresh in the minds of everybody. So can we hive off the learnings and make it something which is institutionalized and use it now? But we need simulators, for instance, for that?
Very good question. Now I'll tell you, Purnima ji, we have already decided to prepare a compendium of SOPs on the response system when there are multiple agencies that are involved. And in any disaster of this magnitude, you quoted Kangra 1905. Now Kangra 1905, if it gets repeated today, God forbid, if it gets repeated today, and it happens at night, it is estimated that about 1 million people will die. So we simulated that. We simulated that in February of this year, and we put that on Monday, and we put that 8.5 Richter or 8.5 magnitude, and we did a simulated exercise in Haryana, Punjab, Chandigarh, the bordering areas, and Himachal. Although the western UP will also get affected, Uttarakhand will get affected, J&K will get affected of that magnitude, Kangra of that time, and the epicenter of today. So simulation is being done. As a matter of fact, we have planned, Mr. Srivastava will tell you later in the session, we have planned a similar simulation of what happened in Shillong in 1897 is being done later in the year or early next year in the northeast. The states to be distinct. This is part one of your reply. In the SOP, we will prepare a complete compendium and we will do that. Now, you mentioned on the vulnerability. I mean, you know, this entire Western Himalayan region, and for that matter, even Sikkim and parts of Arunachal and things like that, are massively vulnerable to earthquakes and to landslides and to avalanches. Now, they are all in Zone 5 and Zone 4 EQ zone. What I have been told, I am not a scientist, but I have had several discussions on this. One, that the hydrometeorology in the mountains, particularly the mountains of this nature, which are peaks and ravines and rivers and plateaus and this and that and all, is a very difficult science, and it is not easy. Anyway, we put the machine into action. Not that it was not in action here. In India, we work on incremental basis. If you have to set up the Doppler radar, you say, "Chal, last plan mein kitne diye the, is plan mein thode se zyada le lo." There are competing demands. But this exercise has, I would say, this disaster has to a large extent sent a very grave warning signal that if we don't do this, and if something like that, what you said happens, then we are done. So they have prepared, the IMD has prepared a complete program, and it is, I think it is going to the cabinet any moment, or it is already gone. It's something like about 350 crore expenditure, primarily to address the issues of the mountain meteorology, so that as much early warning thing as possible can be given to the people out there. This warning that had come was, you see, it's like this. It's not the nowcasting system. It's a general system. So if you are saying, you know, there will be rains and such this thing, heavy or light shower, end up with here, some parts of this thing, it's neither there nor there. So you have to kind of look at things far more closely as to which are the areas which are being affected. Delhi gets flooded every year, for example, and we're talking of urban flooding. So what do you do? Delhi is going to have Delhi is a massive area with this kind of thing. So whether it is going to be East Delhi, whether it is going to be Tirlokpuri, or it is going to be, I've been a municipal commissioner here, like I was there for 4 years. So, you know, I mean, what do you do to that situation? You do your bit. I'm not saying that we are very efficient in our services, but I'm saying the problem is. So that is one part. Secondly, if you are aware, the morphology of this area, the soil of these lower Himalayas is pretty fragile. I am telling you, we are not being able to build even mule tracks. Forget about the roads. You do start building, and the GSI is directly involved. You try to build a mule track, and you know you find that the thing is collapsing. So you can't even build that. So you have to kind of go to higher reaches, which makes things more and more difficult. All I can assure you is that there will be a complete report on the whole thing. This work, I intend starting after 15th of September on the first part, and give a full report on this, including the SOPs. As for the reconstruction, rehabilitation, and long-term planning, that is another chapter which will appear. One last question, please, because I have got a signal if I don't leave now.
Thank you, Mr. Lugar. My name is R.K. Bhandari and I am geotechnical engineer, very familiar with the terrain in Uttarakhand. My question is that you already have a massive reconstruction job in front of you. and the time is obviously very limited because before we get into another season, lot has to be achieved. While this is there, we are also aware of the fact that all the 5 districts which have been very severely affected, they are all in seismic zone 5. And as you have said and the vice chairperson was saying in the morning, it's any time earthquake is anticipated. So my question is the following: what kind of visit have you set up now at this moment on time to take care of those contingencies? Maybe that, God forbid, that never happens, but should it happen, how is your preparedness on this in terms of general earthquake-induced landslides, which might even threaten dairy death? So this is a short question.
Well, I am sure that you know, as I think the people who have more knowledge on EQ will know, no science has been developed so far which can do any prediction on the earthquake. You cannot. In fact, I think Government of India is now setting aside a fund of about 400 crores and locating some deep in underground somewhere in Maharashtra to understand the movement of the plates and whether it is possible to do any prediction. So as of now, the EQ prediction is ruled out. If it happens, we suffer. Preparedness is a key. I quite agree with you. There is no question of preparedness not being a key. So this is what I am saying. It is when people know that nothing could be done about a thing, but how well we are prepared to quickly respond, rescue, provide relief, provide shelter, provide this thing, they will understand the situation. That is why I said it's not that the SOPs have not been prepared. SOPs are prepared after the Bhuj earthquake, so we circulated those SOPs. SOPs were prepared after tsunami. I was myself home secretary, and we worked hard to get this be circulated, and we put, in fact, the tsunami warning system also in place in a record time. So we will prepare the SOPs, and in fact, this earthquake exercise that has been done, a colleague of mine is handling that, Professor Harsh Gupta. I do look at landslides and issues related to that. So we will prepare a complete, as I said, compendium of the thing. It's not, NDMA has earlier also done the guidelines of this. There are guidelines on preparedness and this thing, but we'll update those and we'll circulate it. That's the best that one can do. I mean, that's what one
may I ask a supplementary question? I am familiar with the guidelines because both the guidelines I was